The Mac Observer's Mac Geek Gab. If you can believe it, show 891 for Monday, September 20th, 2021.
And welcome to the Mac Observer's Mac Geek Gab, the show where you send in your questions, your tips, and your cool stuff found. We mash them all together into an agenda. We bring our own tips and cool stuff found, and sometimes, quite frankly, even our own questions, because the goal is for each and every one of us, me and him, to learn, and you, of course, all of us. But I meant the three of us here when I'm saying me and him, right? Yeah. The goal is for all of us, each and every one of us, to learn at least 5 new things every single time we get together. Sponsors for this episode include CashFly at mac.cashfly.com. Of course, CashFly is the company that provides the bandwidth to bring this show from us to you, especially the audio version, so we love CashFly. We'll talk a little bit more about that later here in the episode. For now, here in Durham, New Hampshire, I'm Dave Hamilton.
And here in Fairfield, Connecticut, this is John F. Braun, but wait, there's more.
And here, in the best-looking recording studio room in Durham, New Hampshire, is Pilot Pete.
Pilot Pete.
Yeah.
It's, man,
Yeah.
we were just talking, it's been certainly a pandemic
2 years.
since you've been here,
Yeah.
but even more than that.
22, 23 months since I've been here. Yeah, because I was doing union chairman stuff,
Yeah.
and that kept me unbelievably busy and all that. But so if you'll indulge me for about 15 seconds then, Dave, I want to say to the listeners of the Mac Geek Gab, thank you. You guys have kept me included through your shows, your letters, your emails, and all that. You've always included me over these. I have not been forgotten.
You have not.
It's amazing to me that how much I've been included. So thank you. It's humbling, a humbling experience.
I love it when we get emails that say to Dave, John, and hopefully Pilot Pete. Right? Like for those of you though that don't know,
there are new listeners.
There are listeners that have joined in the last 2 years, believe it or not. Yeah. So Pete is Pete lives local to me. Pete is actually here in my studio in Durham, New Hampshire. Although obviously that's not necessary because John is not, and we've been doing this no problem for 16 and a half years. But Pete is a neighbor and a friend and a Mac Geek Gab listener. And you were here, Pete, before we had a live stream.
Yes. And
before we had a chat room. And so for a long time, especially when your schedule permitted you to be here most often, Pete played the role of...
I was the stupid questioner.
Well, there are no
stupid questions. There's only stupid questioners.
Well,
and I was he.
Fair, yeah. But Pete played that role of
wait a minute, you're a little ahead of me.
You're ahead of me. Yeah, guys, catch me up here. You glossed over a thing. Rewind a little bit. So it was that real-time feedback that is invaluable. And of course, those of you that join the chat room every week at live.macgeekgab.com know this and know how valuable that is to us and know how much we prioritize it. So yeah, Pete was the OG.
So before there was feedback at macgeekgab.com, I was feedback at Mac Geek Gab.
I mean, I think feedback at macgeekgab.com predated you, but yes.
Did I hear you right? Did you say feedback at macgeekgab.com?
We said feedback at macgeekgab.com. Yeah, that's how we hear from everybody here. So yeah, it's great to have you.
Yeah, it's
back.
Just been thrilled. I've been thrilled to be included so many times. So thank you to everybody, and thanks for having me back.
Of course,
it's
man.
Fun to be here.
And let's not make this. Let's not let it go another 2 years. Let's not even let it go another 2 months.
There you go.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Yeah, we have the technology to include you wherever you are if you're available.
Well, that'll be fun because I do a lot more world traveling now than I was doing 2 years ago. And
there you go.
I switched airplanes and that's all I do.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You're on the 77 now?
I'm on the Boeing 777 now.
Okay.
So mostly long haul.
Fun?
Although funny... So a lot of last month, my international flying consisted of all the way from Liège, Belgium, to Paris, France, 170 miles nonstop.
Well, that is international if your home is here in New Hampshire.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
But we also go from Osaka to Paris.
Sure.
So,
of course. That's so
couple
cool.
more hours.
So a few more hours. That's right. Yeah. Well, you gotta earn the money to buy the new gear all the time.
You go, right?
So speaking of, we record this, as many of you know, ahead of time. So this episode comes out, and it is the episode for Monday of September 20th. But we are recording this on the morning of September 17th, mere hours after pre-orders for the new iPhones have gone into effect. Pete, did you order anything?
I haven't ordered anything yet, but I'm only 9 months into my 12 Pro Max, which I am loving the cameras on that thing. Oh my goodness. Have I gotten some amazing shots from the air? And I took a shot of Santorini, Greece from 30 miles away week before last. And you can pick out the white buildings on the top of the volcano ridge. And it is wild. And then the night shots, the Aurora Borealis coming across the North Atlantic.
You pilots that post pictures of the Northern Lights, like it's like, oh yeah, that's this beautiful thing I see all the time, because it's this beautiful thing you see all the time. It is a little bit frustrating for those of us plebeians that live mostly with our feet on terra firma.
I get it. And if you'll indulge me one more time, quick funny story about being a pilot in the Northern Lights.
This show's going to go off the rails.
I know it
folks.
is, and I promise to do this quickly. But so I'm a brand new first officer in the MD-11. This is
100 years ago.
Yeah, 16 years ago, something like that. We're traveling across the North Atlantic back to Memphis, and it's a beautiful night, and the Northern Lights are like I have never seen before in my life, and I'd seen them before, but they were amazing. But I'm brand new to this airplane, and the captain is back in the back on his rest break asleep, and the relief first officer is in the captain's chair, and he's like, oh, this is amazing. So we turn down all the lights in the airplane as dark as we can get it so we can enjoy the show. And after about 5 minutes, we go, all right, we've had our fun, but it's time to actually,
fly
make sure that
again.
our 500,000-pound piece of aluminum is in where we want it to be. And
you haven't drifted off course somehow. Yeah.
So reach down and turn up, and this is an MD-11, it was an all-glass cockpit, and reach down and turn the lights on, and they are black. None of the instruments come back up. And dude, let me tell you, adrenaline to the heart.
I think we've all been there with our computers where we've messed with things, but that's a little bit different.
Now we got to go tell the captain we're out of the middle of the North Atlantic at night with two little peanut gyros that are about as big as 3-4 inches across.
I'm sorry to wake you, sir.
Yeah, and no navigational equipment. All we've got is a radio, and the INSs or the INUs are still working, but we're like, oh my god. And then about the time I'm getting ready to unbuckle, they start fading in. I had forgotten they were CRTs, cathode ray tubes. They were not LED instant on. So they had gone down, cooled off, turned them back on. It took a minute.
The captain may have been asleep, but the two of you were wide awake at that
the rest
moment.
Of that flight,
That's
man.
right.
I had an adrenaline shot to keep me going. So
John, did you order anything new,
Sorry.
my friend, since we last spoke? It's a binary question.
No.
Okay. Are you considering ordering anything new?
Considering the 13 Mini, maybe.
Sure. Yeah. I'm kind of.
We talked about it earlier, and the thing is, there's not a heck of a lot that's like super advanced past what I have. It's incremental. What the screen's brighter and processor's faster and all that stuff.
Incremental, not evolutionary.
And very incremental at best. We talked about this in 890, but I agree with you guys. If it weren't for this, like the job that we have here, I really don't think I would have ordered phones this morning. I did order that iPad Mini as soon as we finished on Tuesday, and that should be here on the 24th. So happy birthday to me. And then because that iPad Mini is like, for those of us that are iPad Mini people, the iPad Mini is friggin' amazing. Like that evolution of it that's a big leap forward.
I will probably get one of those too for the airplane for my own airplane, not for work.
I could, right. Yeah. Oh, right.
Yeah,
right. 8.3 inch screen. It's like, it's perfect.
Yeah.
I did this morning order a 13 Mini, John, for me, and a 13 Pro for Lisa. She didn't want the mini size, and I figured it'd be good to have the pro cameras in the house so that I have the ability to test them and things like that. So, and she was on an 11 Pro, so it's she was sort of the what's that?
It's time.
It's time. Yeah, exactly. It was time. So I've got those all coming on the 24th, but I was going to trade my phone in with Apple. I went through that, and Decluttr, Decluttr, for those of you that don't know about Decluttr, had prices that were probably 15% above Apple.
Oh, wow. I wish I'd have known about that.
Yeah, so I opted not to. Now, there's two reasons for that. Number one is exactly what I said. The other is I get the full tax deduction on the full amount of the iPhone as opposed to just the delta amount of the iPhone.
Sure.
Now, of course, my accountant will then take the money I get from Decluttr and apply that as, recouped things. But, I like to look at it and say, yeah, I'm getting the full tax deduction. And then maybe the recouped thing, maybe, there's a depreciation magic that can be done. I don't know. I let my accountant do all that stuff. So
I just 2 months ago bought Debbie the 12 for her birthday. So I wish I'd have known about Decluttr. So
oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, no, I can't remember if I've used them before. I've priced things on Decluttr many times before, but I don't know that I've used. I don't know that I've actually made it there. Like usually we have things that cascade downward in the house here. But now that I'm on the mini phones, there's no one in the house that wants them, that thinks they want them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and if you'll indulge me one quickly, is I didn't order new this time. I do have some new Apple gear in the house.
Uh-oh.
And that is the AirTags. Boy, are those cool pieces of gear. I just thought, I've got the Tile. I'm not, but boy, they are amazing. Down
Agreed.
to, here's the arrow, here's where they are. You're within inches of it. And the fact that somebody doesn't have to be running an app in the background to get you to your gear.
That's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
I already, and we've talked about this here, but I already see that people are like my devices are more easily found with AirTags than they were with Tile.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's
sometimes Tile won't connect, and you're like, "What's going on?"
Well, but there's just not like the network of people that are running the Tile app. I think, John. I mean, have you found you've got a bunch of AirTags and the Chipola one? Like, are you finding the same thing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's like it's as good as a GPS.
In a city, right?
Yeah.
In an area where there's a lot of people with iDevices. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Like I used it to, I had to get my car towed to the service place. And I was like, you know what? Let me try this. So, and there's one in my car. And sure enough, it, showed its progress on the map, going from my place to the service place.
Oh, that's cool.
It was just very accurate. And we've had, people give us stories of tracking their luggage is another one.
Yeah.
That's kind of a cool application.
Watch my luggage in Spain.
Yeah. No, I did it with my luggage for the last trip I did. Actually, the last two trips I did. And the granularity of the reports was way better than I ever saw with Tile.
Yeah.
And like you said, it's because everybody with an iPhone becomes part of the network, whether they have AirTags or not. And I think that's the big differentiator, right? Tile, the only people running the Tile app are people that own Tiles.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So, well, they're a little more expensive. They're worth it.
A little more expensive. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. It's the Apple tax.
Yeah. It's, again, it just works.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, no, I've been loving them. Straight.
Okay, I'll stop jumping in.
No, it's why we appreciate having you here, John. But it is time to get to some content like that y'all have sent in. So, John, you want to take us to our first quick tip of the day?
Yes. So, Jamie writes in and says, I occasionally run a new situation on a web page where part of a dialogue doesn't fit on the screen, so I can't see or click the OK button or equivalent. I ran into this today while using the Synology DSM web interface. My browser window was already maximized, and I was on a laptop, so there wasn't a lot of screen real estate. I could see the top of the dialog box, which asks some question, do you want to do something? But the buttons to respond were off the bottom of the screen, with no way to scroll down. So the fix for this is to press Command minus on the keyboard. This rescales the browser window to make everything a little smaller. Now the entire dialog box fits on screen, including the control buttons. The other options are Command plus or Command equals to zoom in, and Command 0 to restore the default zoom setting. So, thank you. Yes, I've run into this now and then. Last time I ran into this, Dave, it was LastPass, oddly enough. And yeah, I had the same thing happen, is that I guess some browser plugins get confused as to where the end of the earth is. And yeah, I had the same thing. My solution was to resize the window, but having these keyboard shortcuts, I think, is a little nicer way to
I like
get it
this
so
idea.
you can see everything.
Yeah, that's a really good idea. I wish there was a way to do this on iOS, because I've run into this same kind of thing there at times. But yeah, that's what a smart idea to just do, Command minus and away you go. I like it. This is what we love about quick tips, folks. All right. Listener with the handle of PCUnix shares a Medium article that he found. He says, I don't know if you can distill this for a quick tip, but if you can, please do. It's about the idea, and we will link to this Medium article that walks through it. Actually, and I believe he wrote it. So, because it is listener Tony, who goes by the handle PCUnix, is talking about how to use SideCar, which is the ability to use iPad as your second screen of your Mac, which I was talking about in the last show that I use when I travel, using SideCar to take screenshots, because screenshots on the iPad are so much easier than screenshots on the Mac, and you get a much cleaner view. So Tony will move a window over to his iPad and take a screenshot there if he can't just do it from the iPad directly. So, again, it's worth reading through the article. He's got some additional tips, including using the floating accessibility assistive touch feature to make screenshots even easier, so that you can just tap that little button and boom, up comes the option to take a screenshot. But thank you for sending this in. Thank you for writing it up, Tony. That's really the key here. And we'll put a link in the show notes as promised for you all. Good quick tip. John, thoughts on that, or you want to take us to Simon?
Let's go to Simon. So Simon has a quick tip.
John, you got to say Simon Says. Come on.
Nope.
Sorry, he's not going to do it.
But Simon asks, are all your iPhone images now HEIC and you need JPEG or another format? First, maybe wondering, what is HEIC? And HEIC is a high-efficiency image file format. And as far as I can tell, all photos on iDevices are now using this new format. But what if you need what if you're dealing with someone on a different platform or a legacy operating system? They may not understand what HEIC is. So let's say we want to convert it to something else. Here are the steps. In the Finder, select your images. Right-click on one of the selected images and either do Open or Open Using Preview if it's not your default. Ensure the Preview sidebar is open, showing all the images. If it's not, click the View menu, Thumbnails from the Preview menu bar. Then use Command-A, which is Select All, and select all the open images, or edit Select All from the Preview menu bar. And then here's the fun part. Mass image file type change. Select File, Export, selected images from the Preview menu bar. Then pick a location to export your images. Click the Options button in the Export window to pick a new format to save them as.
Interesting.
And let's see. Hold down the Option key when you click the Format button to see more image formats. Okay, that's a nice little secret. Click Choose to export the images to the new format.
Interesting. Fascinating. And then to distill it down, it's get all the images into Preview, select them all, and then File, Export, and choose your change. Wow. That's fascinating. I like it. That's great.
Right. And
awesome.
and let's see, and there's another one here. You can also, all right, at some point you can also do a mass resize if you need to do that. And for that, go to Tools and adjust size from the preview menu bar.
Okay.
All right. Well, some good imaging tips. Thank you.
Cool. Awesome. I have a quick tip of my own to share that I wind up using all the time. I as with many of you, I'm sure, I live in Mail. Mail is an app that I, spend a lot of my life in. And often what will happen, especially as I'm triaging my inbox, is I will, see a message and then think, oh, I want to search for some other email so that I can take action or, did this person do something or whatever. And what happens if I just do that is I lose my focus on where I am in my inbox. And so Mail has tabs. So what I've gotten in the habit, and now that I finally have it in my workflow where I'm not just automatically starting to search and losing focus, is I create a new tab, or more often, I have a second tab just open in Mail as kind of a work tab, a temp tab, if you will. And I open a new tab and I do my searching there, and then I can go back to the inbox and my focus remains exactly where it was. It's awesome. And you can have multiple tabs open. So especially when I'm answering listener questions, I'll have the, premium at Mac Geek Gab tab open for those of you that are premium listeners. I have the feedback at Mac Geek Gab tab open for those of you who are not premium listeners. And then I have like my inbox and sometimes an archive tab open, and being able to bounce between those without losing focus, especially on where I am in the flow of answering your questions, is amazing and super, I'm an efficiency maniac. It's so pleasing to me now that I've finally gotten this into my workflow, as you can probably tell. Yeah.
I just opened a tab. Yeah, because when I do the search, then you have to go clear the search in order to get the rest of your mail
In order to get the rest of your mail back.
Another tab.
Yeah, I almost feel like there should be a checkbox to open search results in a new tab.
Yeah.
So that you're not, by default, not losing focus, right? Sure. I wonder if some Mail plugin developer could add that. I know Mail is super
Feature
extensible,
request.
but I'm going to write to the folks at Small Cubed who make all my favorite Mail plugins to see. Yeah. All right. This is good, but I like it. Anyway, quick tip for you, an idea for me. Okay. Moving on. Do we have any other quick tips, by the way, while we're here? I don't have any on the agenda, but it's been a tangential show to begin with.
I've got the one, and you said it's been covered before, but it's just a follow-on to your one from your last week's show, which is when you press and hold, this is in iOS, when you press and hold the number key, you can then use your other hand and type in a number and then let go of it, and you haven't switched out of your keyboards and into symbols and such. But the other one is, and this has been covered before, but one of my favorites, and when I show people, they love it. Press and hold the space bar until all the keys go blank, and then you can move the cursor anywhere around in the window, because the most difficult thing, I swear, sometimes, especially, if I'm in the airplane and using the iPad and I'm trying to type something up, like right up in airplane, and I find a misspelling thanks to autocorrect or something like that, and I want to get the cursor back to that one word, the easy way to do it is press and hold the space bar, slide the cursor to where you want it, and let go, instead of trying to touch that one specific spot on the screen, and then I'm one letter off, and... So
yeah, man.
I love that one. That's my favorite little iOS tip.
It is being able to essentially turn your keyboard into a trackpad on the iPhone. Invaluable. I agree, and that's worth a reminder. It's probably been a year since we've talked about it. So I'm glad you mentioned that. That's good. All right. Anything else, John? Are we good to move on to cool stuff's found?
Indeed.
All righty. David brings us one. This is kind of a semi-answer to the Geek Challenge that I posed recently, and also a cool stuff found. He says, I just listened to 889, and I have an imperfect and probably unsatisfying suggestion for Stelios and Dave, who wished to have weather, preferably radar, overlaid on the navigation app in CarPlay. I do not know of such an app. Cool. Great. Well, we'll move on. No, wait. He says, and I believe you're correct that no such animal exists. I have a vague memory of a companion app for Waze that did this, but no longer, and I don't think it was CarPlay anyway. But I do use an app called Drive Weather, which is available for iOS and Android. You tell it your start and end points, and it displays the weather along your selected route. There are several options, including radar, which are included in this free tier. For the paid tier, you can add waypoints, stop points, wind speed, other items. I use it when planning trips that are longer than an hour or two. It says, I often drive right past you, Dave, which is almost unavoidable whenever I leave my home in the Great North Woods. Ah, very nice. He says, I checked to see if it worked on CarPlay, and it does not. However, I set up Waze and Drive Weather, and I can display my route in Waze on the car's CarPlay display. And then the Drive Weather route remains on my iPhone screen. Right. That's right. Because a couple of iOS iterations ago, they split it so that you could have your phone showing one thing and CarPlay showing the other. Right. So there you go. Okay. So if you put your phone on a mount, you could have your cake and eat it too. He followed up, though, and said that he checked in with the developer of Drive Weather and shared our segment from 889 with him. And the developer's like, I'm going to add a CarPlay screen to my app.
There you go.
So, yeah, maybe. The question is, will Apple approve it? Like, no, none of these apps exist. This feature doesn't exist anywhere. Clearly, me and Stelios are not the only people that would want it. I would imagine you as a pilot, you're so used to seeing weather along your route, you would love to have this.
Overlay, sure.
An overlay,
Absolutely.
right. Yeah, turn it on and off, like whatever. But, a long drive, it's nice to see what's happening with the weather. And so I know we're not alone in wanting this and even knowing that we want this, right? There's one thing about, there's a difference between seeing a feature for the first time and saying, how did I live without this? And another is lacking a feature and knowing you want it. I think there's a lot of us in the latter camp, but Apple has yet to approve one. I don't think that means it has never been submitted.
And I wonder if the other question is, what did the automakers have a say in that as well?
Huh.
Because it's maybe you grazed the edge of it on 889, which was boils down to, I think, product liability.
For sure. Very different in a plane. You can spend a lot of time staring at a screen and not be a danger to yourself and others.
Right.
Whereas in a car,
the Ford, Honda, Toyota, all the automakers, if they have a say in it, they may go, no. Yeah. Which is why you can't get YouTube to play on your screen.
I was at, where was I? I was in LA at Mac Tech.
Yeah.
And there was an event, like a Mac Tech related event, but it was off-site. They do like one off-site event a year, and this one was at the aquarium, which was super cool. Like being able to be in the aquarium, it was just us Mac Tech geeks at night. It was amazing. Neil Tickton and his team always put together a great show. But I wound up not going on the bus, even if there was a bus. I just wound up riding with someone who's a Mac Geek Gab listener. I'll leave his name out of it for reasons that might become obvious here. But it was a great ride, and it was great to hang out. But he had hacked his CarPlay into his car with some, I don't know. He had some solution for making his screen on his car a CarPlay screen, even though it was not that way from the factory. It was using some third-party thing.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And because of that, though, many restrictions, including those where CarPlay will only display apps that are flagged as CarPlay compatible.
Right.
He did not have to suffer through these restrictions.
Yeah.
And so he did have YouTube. He's like, oh yeah, I have YouTube videos playing all the time when I drive so that I can learn things. And I'm thinking, most of these YouTube how-to videos are kind of like this, right? Like you wouldn't need to be watching us.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, this is how I convinced myself that it was okay. In the moment anyway, but so maybe that his solution would work for Drive Weather. So,
and I've seen hacks, to get in to get those to go, but just even a few seconds. And last week after the football game here, UNH's home opener. Yeah, my youngest is learning to drive, so I hopped in the right seat as we drove into Dover to pick up my mother, and my heart was in my throat several times. He's on the road. He's watching, but boy, there's a lot of kids, college kids, in dark clothes, walking down the side of the road, and that's the thing that scares me. It's the other guy. It's the inattention on their part that'll hose you while you're driving. So,
downtown Durham, driving through that college campus, anytime there's a crowd, before or after sporting events, but also at class transition time. Or when the bars close at 2 in the morning or whatever, like the people just spill into the streets.
You're taking your liability insurance in your hands.
That's what you're doing. Yeah. All right, John, what do you think? Are we staying on this, or are we moving to Jeremy?
I think we're going to go to Jeremy. So we got a quick cool stuff found here. Pella makes an AirTag holder. What's different about this one? It's a holder. It has a hole in it. It has a clip, so that's nice. Almost all of these do. But it's compostable.
Oh.
So, okay.
That's
so rather than
cool.
using plastic, it's a compostable AirTag. I'm trying to think of a use case. But the price is pretty good. So one is $14.95, and then the more you buy, the more you save. And it comes in 5 different colors. So
that's cool. Yeah. Huh. I like it. All right. Yeah, compostable. I mean, at some point, you're going to stop using your AirTags. So nice that what will eventually become trash is compostable. Like, that's not a bad thing. Yeah, I like it. All right. Cool. Sonos is one of my favorite brands, but also just I am a huge fan of their products. And last year, if it's not true, 2 years ago, Sonos released the Arc, which is their sort of pro level sound bar with Dolby Atmos and all that. They recently released the Sonos Beam, which is we'll call it their entry-level soundbar, although it's probably the wrong. It's not
the $700 one. It's the $400.
It's the $400 one. But I will tell you, up until getting the Arc in our living room, we used the Beam. And our living room, we're probably a good 15 feet from the television, and it still gave us full sound.
Awesome.
It was great. Now there's the Beam Gen 2, which includes Dolby Atmos support. So if, for all but the largest rooms, you can now get all of that sound while still, not having to buy the super hoopty one. So this is $449 for the Beam Gen 2. And I think, why can't I remember the name of the other one? The Arc. Thank you.
The Arc.
No, the Arc is $899. So it's half the price.
I have not seen the Arc. The Beam I've seen.
Yeah, the Arc and the Beam look very similar. The Arc is just wider by quite a bit, but they're both just sound bars in form factor. But so the Beam Gen 2 is now my go-to recommendation. I have to couch that by saying I have not tested it yet. I will, but I have not. So I can't, I'm going based on Sonos' track record here, but I loved the Beam. I love the Atmos sound from the Arc. And so to be able to combine those together and have the price be $449, it's pretty easy. It's a pretty easy recommendation to make. So it's an educated recommendation, but it is not an experiential recommendation.
So stupid question time then.
Yeah.
What is Atmos? I've not heard of that.
It is one of the 7.1 sound formats. So you get what Atmos adds is a high and low channel. So really it's a high channel. And so you get not just sound on a flat plane, but you get sounds coming above you and things like that. And it really does. Like the way these sound bars can bounce the sound off your ceiling, Atmos works amazingly well. It's similar to how they're bouncing the surround channels off of your walls.
Right.
They're bouncing the Atmos off of your ceiling, and it's amazing how well it works. Yeah.
Okay.
It really becomes this immersive.
I mean, I love my Sonos stuff.
Yeah. It becomes the way you get the immersion of Atmos even from a soundbar, which really in my house anyway has been my only experience with Atmos. I've experienced it elsewhere with actual speakers in the ceilings and things like that. But it's amazing.
And you have the sub too, right?
I also do have a sub. I've got a couple of Play 3s that I use as rear speakers in the living room. Yeah, you're right.
I do the same thing. I got Play 1s for the rear speakers, but
it's probably even better
that
option.
Sub makes it so immersive.
It does. And the Beam or the Arc will work with your rears and the sub.
Nice.
So, yeah, it's good.
Those guys know what they're doing over there.
They do know what they're doing over there. They've known what they're doing for a very long time. I'm glad that they survived long enough for people to understand why their products are so great. Because I know, like when I first found out about Sonos, the first thing I said to him was like, now I should couch this a little bit. They had been pestering me for 2 years to come and learn about their products. And I was like, I don't understand them. I'm not coming. And finally, like somebody twisted my arm and was like, you got to come to Boston. And it was like, I'd postponed it once or twice. I finally went down. Within about 10 minutes of them explaining it to me, I was like, this is amazing. How come you've never told me about this before? And there were like 4 sets of eyes in the room that could I could feel.
Lasers.
Yeah, lasers. I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. They're like, it's really hard to explain this to people. And I'm like, no, it's fine. And then I came back here on the show, and you can go back and listen to this episode and hear me fumble for probably 25 minutes through trying to explain what Sonos was, what it is, like why people would want it in their home, why it's easy to use. And then I had to call my friends at Sonos and my new friends at the time and say, I'm really sorry. Now I understand. I tried to explain this too. I had the benefit of 25 minutes. You have, maybe 30 seconds in an ad spot or a static, ad, a PDF or something.
But there were some thin times there, as early.
I guess so.
For a long
time,
you couldn't listen to Audible. You couldn't. What's the word I'm looking for? AirPlay. That sort of thing.
Right.
And now that you can do that, and I know that was a lot of hard engineering to work into the software without crashing what they were doing in the first place.
Correct. Yeah. No, they stayed the course. Thankfully, they, again, were able to remain financially viable and all of that through it to truly succeed. And of course, now it's paid off in spades for them. But, pretty good. All right. We were talking in the last episode about Apple TV Plus, and Tony from Thailand sent us a note reminding us that that there are some new things coming in the fall, including shows from Tom Hanks, Will Ferrell, and Jon Stewart in the lineup for the fall here and into 2022, I should say. But yeah, Apple TV Plus. So, John, you mentioned Foundation in the last episode. I think you mentioned Foundation, right? Was that the one you mentioned? Right? Yeah. Okay. So there's also Invasion, and then there's The Problem with Jon Stewart. So he's got a new show coming out that will have a companion podcast, which is pretty cool. The morning show debuts now. So the season 2 has begun. And there's a movie coming out about the Velvet Underground, which will be on exclusive to Apple TV Plus too, which I've enjoyed. Well, Lisa and I recently got back into. We watched the first season of Dickinson, and then for whatever reason, it sort of drifted away from it. And this week we've been all but binging the second season and catching up with the second season of Dickinson, which it's a fun show. It's tough to find a 30-minute show that captures our interest, and Dickinson has been that. It's hard to describe. If I describe it to you, I will fail and probably convince you not to watch it, because on the surface it doesn't sound like the type of thing that I would enjoy, and yet it's totally like the level of snark and the humor and taking this story from ye olden days and making it super modern, but also still happening in ye olden days. Brilliant. Yeah.
They're not putting crap up on Apple TV.
No.
I got to say, from Ted Lassiter, the other one that did I say Lassiter?
You did say Lassiter.
Ted Lasso. Sorry. And Ted Lasso, that was fun. And then the other one that I was certain I would not like, but was a howl, and it was like a 6-episode and done, was Schmigadoon.
That's what John was. Yeah.
That is a hoot. Oh my God!
It's an adult musical.
Yeah. Yes, it is. But boy, it was fun, you know. And is it Keenan Michael Key?
Yeah,
from Key and Peele. Yeah,
from Key and Peele.
So he's in it.
Yeah.
I'm not singing.
That's right. Yeah.
No, I'm not singing. Not another song.
I think I suffered through 2 episodes of that, and then I had to.
You bailed on that?
I don't like musicals.
No, neither do I.
That's fair.
But it was fun. It was fun. So yeah.
Fair.
So
fair. Calls.
Yeah.
Did you watch Calls, Pete?
I haven't seen Calls.
Okay.
Oh, there we
so,
go. Okay.
John, did you start Ted Lasso or anything like that yet? Have you?
No.
Okay. So Calls is like not a TV show, except it's a TV show. It is a 6 or 7 episode story. The episodes are short. I think the longest one might be 20 minutes. This is not something that you can watch with another screen up because a lot of it is reading on screen. It is the entirety of the show is a series of phone calls that happen and describe. And I don't want to give too much away, but it becomes this very interesting sci-fi story that I think the way that it wraps up I found my room to become very dusty during the final episode. And Pete, I think your room would be even dustier than mine.
Okay.
No, it tells a story that you think is this, this super bizarre sci-fi, apocalyptic thing, but not in the disease way. So, yeah. But it tells this story that all of a sudden becomes this very human thing, which is the best kind of sci-fi.
Yeah.
And it's told, like I said, in a very strange way. It's phone calls between 2 or more people, and all you're seeing on the screen is their names and the words that they're saying. And the dialogue is super important. So you just get immersed. But some episodes are like 9 minutes. So you're reading for 9 minutes, and then it's like, Lisa and I started it a few months ago, and then it got exhausting to watch. Yeah. And so we took, a few months off. And then this week or last week, we were like, we should finish Calls. And then we did. And we're like, oh, why did we wait so long? We should have done this. So highly recommended for all of you out there. Yeah.
I guess the bottom line is I'm a full-on cord cutter. And
same now.
But I'm paying for the Apple TV subscription after my first year free. It's good stuff. They're not putting garbage on there. So
No, it's good. Yeah. All right. Any more thoughts on that before we move on, John? People in the chat room are recommending Coda, Children of Deaf Adults. I have not watched an episode of that yet. It's on our list. So people at live.macgeekup.com, we've got NCSU CPE and Kiwi Graham both saying watch it. It is a movie, not a series.
Okay.
But there you go. Yeah. Great. Thank you for that, guys. All right. Let's get to some questions, because that's one of the things that we do here, shall we? Mm-hmm. Cindy, unless there's more. John, do you have any more about shows or Apple TV Plus or anything?
Nope. Okay,
cool. Cindy asks a question, which, would be good for me to have in front of me so I can read. I'm sure she says, and I'm sure other listeners would love to find out ways of knowing how I can control my Mac with my iOS device. I'm specifically looking for ways of controlling Swinzian, which is a FLAC audiophile player, on an iMac that I have hooked to my stereo, but I may be out of luck. She says, seems that years ago I remember Keyboard Maestro having a way to control Keyboard Maestro via the iPhone, but I have slept many times since then. So, all right. So I have a lot of answers for you. You are absolutely right that Keyboard Maestro macros can be triggered by web endpoints. And when I say endpoints, I simply mean URLs. You run Keyboard Maestro on one Mac, and then it will give you don't have to guess at any of this. Once you build a macro, you can say, I want this macro to be triggered by a web endpoint, and it will give you the URL. And all you have to do is load that URL in your web browser, and boom, that macro fires. So my example of that, the one way that I use it, is when I want to take a nap in my office, I want my Mac to mute its speaker so that if I get like Slacks or text messages coming in, it's not waking me up. So I have a shortcut that I have on my iPhone called nap time. So I say, Siri, nap time. And it loads the endpoint of a Keyboard Maestro macro on my Mac that does all of the aforementioned things. And then it sets do not disturb on my iPhone so that that's not bothering me. And then it sets a 22-minute timer because that's the perfect amount for my nap time. And then, of course, launches my white noise app so that I can hear white noise while I'm taking a nap. And this all takes a matter of a second or two. So, but the Keyboard Maestro endpoint is exactly that. That may or may not work for you because that could be a little, it's great for my use case. If you're using it as remote control, they could be a little pedantic to have to like, load this bookmark, load that bookmark, load this bookmark to pause, load this, maybe like it might be the best. And if it is, then great, because Keyboard Maestro can do a lot of things on your Mac. So that's one way of doing it. Another way of doing it would be using an app called Screens. Screens is essentially Apple Remote Desktop, but for iPhone. Why Apple has Apple Remote Desktop on a Mac and no client from Apple to use it on an iPhone is something that I'm sure the makers of Screens are very happy about. But it is a sort of weird thing. It's from a company. It's from Edovia, edovia.com. Great folks over there. And Screens for iPhone works very, very well. There was a period of time where we were having some weird issues with it, and they totally address that real quickly. And it is an app I use constantly to control my Mac from my iPhone. Especially if I'm over at the house and I want to control the Mac in the office, that kind of thing. It works really well. So that's
to be on the same network.
No, it doesn't have to be on the same network. They have an app that you can run on your Mac that logs it into your Screens account so that you can do it from anywhere.
Okay.
Yeah. But I when I'm connecting to the office, I am on the same network. I don't run that app on my Mac. I just VPN into my home network and do it that way, which totally works fine.
So I'm just thinking of running my bidding program on my laptop from the Far East.
From the Far East? Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yep, you totally could. Yep. You just have to have a way of waking up your laptop remotely. So that's the only thing you need to be aware of. But then for very use case specific scenarios, and Cindy's gets very close to this, and I think might work. There is the Remote for Mac app from Evgeny, I think I'm pronouncing your name wrong, Chirpak. So it's chirpake.com, CHERPAKE.com. Links for all these are in the show notes, of course. And Remote for Mac is a 2-app thing. You put an app on your iPhone, you put an app on your Mac, and then they have built app-specific templates that you run on your iPhone. So if you want to run Plex on your Mac, like, you've got a Mac connected to your TV, you want to run Plex on your Mac, you use Remote for Mac, and now all the Plex commands and controls are right there on your iPhone in a format that would make sense for a remote control for Plex. Same is true for a Netflix window, but the same can be true for lots of different things, including complete just remote control of your Mac with a keyboard and things like that. So honestly, that's where I would start, is with Remote for Mac, because if it can do what you want, their template and remote control first interface might be the simplest path for you. If that doesn't work, then you can sort of step down the chain there. So there you go. Thoughts on that, Mr. Braun? No. Okay. Thoughts on that, Pilot Pete?
No.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay. John, you want to take us to listener Jeff?
Yeah. Poor Jeff.
Poor Jeff.
Good morning, gentlemen. It appears I've hit my head on the time machine ceiling once again. I have not had that happen. I have a Word doc that apparently I cleaned out of my documents folder. I went back through my time machine backups and found the file. It shows up as msword.docx, and I thought life was good. I clicked restore and headed back to the documents, to no avail. There was no file restored, so I headed back to Time Machine to see what else I could see. With most of my files in Time Machine, I can preview and open them. This was not the case with this file. I dug around the Time Machine drive for the dates and times I found the file, and they show up as shortcuts, but no information as to the location of the original file. It would appear I got caught, unless you have additional information I'm missing. I mean, the only thing I can think of, Dave, I've had this happen as well, where it's like, I thought Time Machine backed this up, but it didn't. I think it just gets confused every now and then. The only thing I can think of, Dave, is there's a tool called the Time Machine Mechanic, and it'll look at your Time Machine logs. So maybe run this, and it'll tell you where things went wrong. I don't know if it could fix problems, but that's the only way I could another thing, you may want to reconsider your backup strategy. So I actually have had cases where what I do is, so I have Time Machine on my Synology, but what I also do is I run a backup of that file using Synology's hyper backup.
Yeah.
The nice thing about that is that I've had cases in the past where I'm like, oh man, my Time Machine store is corrupt. What to do? Well, go to one that you backed up in the past. So,
right.
I mean, you could open the sparse bundle and kind of dig into it and see if you can find it that way. I don't know.
Yeah, the thing that comes to mind is that Jeff says he sees them as shortcuts.
Yeah.
And we have to remember how Time Machine works, right? The way Time Machine works is it backs up a file, and then if that file hasn't changed, every time you back up, it creates a new folder, right? And you can see these if you go into the Time Machine volume, where it'll be named with the date and the time and, probably other stuff too, but that's effectively what it is. And every folder appears to have a complete backup, but really all that's happened is an incremental backup from the last one. Everything else is brought forward as a hard link, which is similar to a soft link, which is similar to an alias or a shortcut, right? So they're not all exactly the same at all, but they are related entities. And so it brings forward everything that hasn't changed as a hard link, and then the new stuff is actually put into that folder, and that's why you're not completely filling your Time Machine drive every single time that you do a new backup, and also why it doesn't take forever. Although sometimes it seems like it does. So when he says that he sees them looking like shortcuts, that tells me that the original file of that hard link is gone, and it shouldn't be. Right. But somehow along the lines, that file got yanked from underneath the thing. So that's kind of where my head goes on this. It doesn't solve, like it's simply musing on the mystery. It's not solving the problem. I would run T2M2, the Time Machine Mechanic, and see if it reports anything, but I'd probably, either delete or archive off that Time Machine backup and start anew, because if that file's missing,
what else?
That's the only one about currently, and I wouldn't want to find out about the next one.
Are there any good searches, but like Spotlight, to try and go find that? Is there any other good?
You could try to use Spotlight, or you could use one of the more powerful third-party, find search tools to scour and see if you can find something with that file name. Yeah.
Especially if you know a specific phrase or something in the file.
Or even just the name of it should.
Yeah.
I mean, like, you know the name, so you should be able to search that drive, and Spotlight might even do it for you. But that would be my thought process on that. So yeah, it might be there, and the link just got broken. KiwiGram in the chat room very correctly points out that the hard link is a file system thing, not a Mac OS thing. That is correct. It's It's actually a concept that goes back to Unix, although it was not really a part of HFS Plus. It was tacked on, and that may also be part of the problem. When they added hard links to HFS Plus, a person came to me after a Macworld session once, and they were at the time and I think still, a former file system engineer at Apple, and they told me, we stored the data for the hard links in a text file. Don't trust them. And this was right after Time Machine came out. It was like, whoa, okay. Yeah. So maybe this is his worst fears coming true. I don't know.
Well, and then I guess the other question I have is there a good, it's probably too late now in this case, but is there a good undelete program for Mac? Windows has some pretty robust undelete.
Yeah.
But Mac OS, I've always seemed to struggle with that.
Not really. I mean, once it's out of the trash can, yeah. I mean, maybe there's a geek challenge. If somebody knows, feedback at macgeekgab.com. I haven't seen any. Have you, John?
I haven't run it in a long time. Data rescue, maybe?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Let's see if they still...
If they still exist.
If they still exist. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, data protection, ProSoft engineering, data rescue, yes. Have you accidentally deleted or lost important files, is what they say. Well, sounds like we did. So, data rescue to the rescue, maybe. I think they have a trial that'll, help you find those lost files.
Yeah, and the sooner you get to that, the less likely that space is going to be overwritten, obviously. But and then the other thing is kind of a comment, which I don't think happened here also because he can see the links, but with Time Machine, you can exclude what files are backed up. Be careful you aren't excluding files that you want backed up.
Fair. Yeah, fair. Great point, and I agree. Yeah, that's probably not the issue here, but it is a good thing to check with. Yeah. All right, cool. Well, we will put a link to data rescue in the show notes, too. All right. Moving onward, we'll see where we get to with things here. I knew we'd run. I knew the show would be different when we talked yesterday, and you were coming. No, this is exciting. I love it. It's great to have the additional perspective and interaction. People,
I'll never be invited back.
Let us know what you think. No, seriously, folks. This show is always a work in progress, right? We are striving for excellence. We never believe we've hit it. There have been shows where it's like we finish and I'm like, we nailed that one. But I let that sort of carry me through lunch. And then it's like, all right, how can we make it better? So please keep us posted on how we're doing here. All right. Bob has a question. Bob says, I've been monitoring I have a question about monitoring battery usage on my Apple Watch. I'm using a Series 4, but he says, I think this would apply to anyone. My watch has recently started getting to the low power mode threshold by late afternoon, and I have no idea why. In the past 4 months, it has seldom gotten below 30% by bedtime. In iOS, there is a battery preference pane that shows battery usage by app, even if it isn't all that good. I cannot find an equivalent for the watch. We get something similar in Monterey. It's not perfect, but we get something similar. He says, how do I figure out which apps drain my battery so much? Well, it could be, given that it's a Series 4, I don't know how long you've had it. You might have just bought it on the refurb store, in which case it would have a new battery. But it is possible that your watch battery itself is on the decline, and now you're just noticing that. I don't want to cop out and stop there, but I do want to acknowledge that certainly is a possibility. I have noticed this over the years, though, with all manner of Apple Watches, including my OG and my Series 5. And I think I know I've seen it on the watches of my family members, and they've had different iterations than me. We're sort of on a leapfrogging thing with the Apple Watches. We always have like 3 different generations of Apple Watch in the family because it's not the kind of thing you need to replace every year. So,
but that's a good excuse.
It is. It is.
Battery's not working. New.
Battery's not. Oh yeah, that's right. That's Series 7, Bob. This is going to solve your problem. And honestly, I think it might, but not necessarily because it has a new battery. When I have seen the battery life on the Apple Watch just suddenly begin to tank with consistency, like day after day, it's just falling and falling. Every single time it has been caused by background syncing of contact data. I don't know why this happens, but clearly it's a problem that affects lots of people, not just those in the TMO Towers East household here. And the reason I know that is because there is a button to fix it. If you go into, and so I would try this, go into the Watch app on your iPhone. And every time I have to struggle with this, so I'm hoping I remember doing it in this segment. You go to the Watch app on your iPhone, go to General, choose your watch if you have multiple watches. Most people don't, but do that. Choose your watch, go to General, go to Reset, and choose Reset Sync Data. That wipes out whatever it's trying to do and lets it just do a full-on sync once. Now, that full-on sync will use more, radio time and processor time and therefore battery life. But anytime I've had this issue, I do that and it's gone for, the foreseeable future. So that is exactly where I would start if I were there. Hopefully that does it. Yeah, we'd have to turn off the light. Pete's trying to show the screen on the screen, but it doesn't work out. Oh, there you go. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, reset sync data. Yeah, cool. Yeah. We'll get better about this. If you're here more frequently, we will start doing some screen sharing, and we can even do iPhone screen sharing live on the show. It's totally doable. So.
And everybody listening in their car, I just held up my phone.
Yeah, so. Exactly. Yeah. No, we do. We have to. We try to be careful that we fail. It's part of the evolution. So yeah. So hopefully that does it for you, Bob. Please keep us posted. Anything more on that, or is it time to go to Chris, John?
Time to go to Chris.
All right. What's Chris
have a question? I don't know if I have an answer.
We'll see.
Maybe we'll come up with it. I back up my 2015 MacBook Air running macOS 11.5.2 by plugging USB drives for Time Machine and Carbon Copy Cloner each evening and eject them afterwards. This has worked well for a long time. Lately, it takes a long time, 5 to 10 minutes, for the drives to stop cycling after the disk icon disappears. Removing the drives before their activity light quiets down results in a warning that the disk was not ejected. What is happening? I don't know. What do you think's happening, guys? Yeah, as far as I know, Time Machine just kind of automatically ejects.
Yes.
Carbon Copy Cloner, it's part of the script. I'll do that.
Wonder if
so I have a similar setup, but what would be holding on to the drive to prevent it from being ejected is...
Well, you could use LSOF, right? It's a terminal command. And what I usually do is issue LSOF, and then I do the pipe character. In fact, as I'm typing this on my Mac, it's auto-filling with exactly what I was going to say, showing that I've done this on a Time Machine volume before. And so I type LSOF, which is list open files. At least that's how I remember it. I don't know if that's the correct command. And then I do the pipe character, which sends the output of LSOF to the next command. Okay. And we'll put all this in the show notes. I just want you, so you can copy and paste this command. But I want you to understand what you're doing. So the pipe character takes one command's output and shoves it into another command before it shows anything to us as the users. And then I pipe it into a grep command, which is a search command. It can use regular expressions. I am petrified by those, as we all know. So I use single words and I keep it very simple. So the command is LSOF pipe, which is the straight up and down thing above the slash that's above the return character on Apple keyboards, into grep. And then I put a space and then my search terms. And what I'm looking for is the name of the volume so that I'm filtering my results down by only the things that are open on the volume that I am curious about. And so an easy way to do that is to use the word machine with a capital M, because Time Machine, the volume's name machine, you might get a file with the name machine in it there, but you are a human. You can filter through that pretty easily. But if you do LSOF pipe grep machine, it will show you everything that is open on that Time Machine volume. And it might even show you what app it is. In fact, it will. So you can parse that output and maybe try to figure it out. Kiwi Graham says that Spotlight can hold on to disks longer than you might want. Spotlight's the terminal command that runs Spotlight, as he reminds us, is often MDS or MD stores or something like that. So if you see MD something, that's probably Spotlight. Spotlight should not be indexing your Time Machine volumes. You can, if that's the case, go in and tell it not to index those in system preferences, and that might solve this problem for you. So, yeah. It's fun. I love doing this stuff. I love answering people's questions. We really do. I don't know. It's weird. We like helping. All right. We've got a couple questions. Pete, I as I'm planning our escape from this episode,
run for your lives.
You said you are a cord cutter. Are you using things like YouTube TV or Fubo or anything like that?
So yeah, I've heard, and you've had some great discussions over that. I used YouTube TV because I was with an apartment in Memphis when I was the chairman of the union, and that apartment was provided as was YouTube TV. And then when I finished that job and moved on, I kept YouTube TV for a while, and then they went from 50 to 65 or 69 a month. And I thought, I could have taken $5 a month, but that was pretty steep. And
sure.
So out of protest, I left them, but they were very good content. I'll give them that.
And the user
unlimited
experience
DVR. That was very good.
Yeah. So are you using anything to get, how do you watch football games?
Yeah. Right now, AT&T TV, which has been changed to DirectTV Stream.
Yeah. So I've been wanting to test this out. How do you like DirectTV Stream?
I like it. It's good. What it doesn't have, you get HBO Max included with that.
Okay.
Don't get the NFL Network, though, for those that are sports fans. So that's why FuboTV, I think, remains your option there.
The DirectTV Stream does have many of the regional sports networks that YouTube lacks.
Yes.
Including Nesson here in New England, but also the same is true in other locales.
Right. So and the other thing that I found that I didn't like about YouTube TV that DirectTV Stream does do is I use a commercial VPN. And when I am in Europe or in Asia, YouTube TV would not let me. Oh, you're on a VPN. You're on a VPN. No TV for you.
That's right.
Let me tell you, when you're 72 hours restricted to your hotel room, you can't leave. You get room service. In one country, a police officer escorts you to your room, unlocks the door, does not give you the key, says leave your room, go to jail. And you're like, oh, lovely to be here.
Thank you, pandemic.
Yeah. So 72 to 96 hours in one of those rooms without even your own TV will drive you nuts quickly. So we've been experimenting. One of the advantages is going to the DirectTV Stream.
Okay.
It doesn't gripe when I use a VPN.
Got it. And we've heard the same about Fubo and specifically that yes, YouTube TV does gripe. We've been experimenting with this. We've got YouTube TV and Fubo that we're doing our experiments with. I want to add DirectTV Stream to that, and I will. But with my son out in Oregon, we're having the same, you're in a different location, what are you going to do thing. And thus far, I need to see if this is going to work long term. But the solution that we have put into place that does work is that he VPNs into the house, right? So this is not a known VPN endpoint. In fact, it's very much the same endpoint that our TVs use, right? So he's VPNing into the house, and he went into system preferences, security and privacy, location, and turned off location for Google Chrome.
Right.
Because Google Chrome will ask to get your actual location, which regardless of whether you're connected to a VPN, will give you, lets your computer give it the real IP address or other data it might have to give a more accurate location. But turning that off, it seems to work fine.
Right.
You found this too?
I did, but I also...
but you were on a commercial VPN.
And I did use my own VPN through my disk drive, my Synology drive.
Yep.
But my concern at that point, and now it's been put off for a little while, was Comcast was starting to put the data caps back in, and I was right up against my data caps and slightly over, and I thought, well, I don't want to be streaming all over
so
the world.
this is why I'm happy to have consolidated here in my neighborhood. Unfortunately,
right?
you can't get it in yours.
I can't. Well, I can, but it's not at gigabit speed.
No, not at gigabit speeds. I mean, to be perfectly honest, Pete, if you want to head down that path, I am happy to give you a login to my VPN. Oh. We don't use our whole gigabit symmetrical bandwidth, as you might find surprising.
Dude, I'm in.
So, all right, great. We'll talk about that off the air, so that we're not just sharing the VPN with all of you, but we do like that.
Well, that's no fun.
While we're on the subject of cord cutting and all of that, FuboTV. Listener Damon wanted us to remind all of you about Fubo's picture-in-picture feature. And this is, I could see it if you are really into watching multiple sports at the same time. But you can have 2, 3, or 4 different streams happening on your television at the same time.
Much like
much like what you're watching here. Yeah, except they're all going at the same. Actually, we're all going at the same time too. Never mind. Yeah. The interface is great. It only works in their Apple TV app, so it doesn't work in like the apps on TV yet. Maybe they'll add it. I don't know. But in the Apple TV app for Fubo, and it's very smooth. And you can do all 4 being equal, or 1 big and 3 small, and you can navigate through as to which one's providing sound or which one is the the zoomed in one. So if you got a couple of games that you're watching and you're like, oh, that team's about to score, you can, cut over without losing it.
Got your own red zone channel.
You got your own red zone channel. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it is cool. And I appreciate you reminding us of that, listener Damon. I don't know why I call you listener Damon. Your name's Damon. So thanks, Damon.
You might be watching. Watcher Damon.
Well, that's true. That's true. Audience member Damon. Yeah. All right. So what else do we have here? Where were we? I want to do this follow-up since you are here, Pete. Listener Steve revisits a conversation that we started 2 episodes ago. And Steve, it was about phones and airplanes and interference.
Yeah.
So I'll share Steve's, but then I also want your thoughts on this too. He says, as a helicopter pilot, I thought I might get you some additional details around known interference between cellular phones and aircraft and aviation systems. A number of wide-body aircraft have air-to-ground comm systems for flight tracking, sensory telemetry, and maintenance. 3G and 4G is known to interfere with these systems. That being said, the systems do a lot of CRC, so error checking, and are smart enough to retry. Our biggest and newest challenge is with 5G interfering with radar altimeters, and he shares an article about it. Aircraft of all sizes may have been often, I think he seried this to us, have radar altimeters. Please provide I'm trying to think of how he would have phrased this. These provide a precise measurement of the distance between the underside of the aircraft and the actual ground below. These are pressure altimeters, but the most accurate there are pressure altimeters, but the most accurate are radar altimeters, and it dramatically augments flying over terrain and visual flight approaches to airports. So, and he sent us a picture of him in the helicopter. So thank you for this, Steve. This is a great follow-up, and it starts to make sense. I don't want to ask what you do in the cockpit, Pete, but I want to ask what you've heard other pilots do in the cockpit, and do they have problems if they happen to accidentally leave their cell phones on?
When I'm trying to finish a level on my game, when I'm doing an approach, just kidding, FAA, just kidding.
Right.
Actually, one of the best discussions I ever heard about this was, and I wish I could point to a show number and I can't, was by Allison Sheridan over at Podfeet.
Interesting.
She threw her engineering mind at this, and so stand by. But it was
It will be coming at us.
Yeah, it was soon. And here's the thing. We now have, we use iPads as an EFB, and I know some of the airlines use Surface Pros for EFB, electronic flight bag, which has your Jepson charts, your approach plates, and those sorts of things. But she brought into it, you probably want to be in airplane mode, because are you sure that your phone isn't somehow, has the engineering been done? Is this properly shielded? Is it in the proper frequencies that won't interfere?
Right.
So obviously the FAA has been proven to their satisfaction enough that a certain amount of Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and all that can continue to go on if you leave your phone in the cellular mode on. They know it's going on. They know it's there, and of course. If not, like you said in the previous show, that there would be some very strict enforcement.
Right, right. They would take your phones from you.
Yeah,
if it was,
absolutely.
If it was that big of a problem.
Because the fact is, and he mentions the difference. There's barometric and radar altimeters, and the radar altimeter is what you use when you let the airplane land itself. We use the radar altimeter height above touchdown,
right?
For because it's getting right to the runway. Now, the terrain before the runway, a couple miles off the field is still varied, but as you get in close, that last 100 feet or so, you are definitely over the field. You're definitely over the runway, and that needs to work. I don't know any of the engineering and the bandwidths and whether or not these could or could not interfere. If I had to guess, my educated guess is no, it's not going to interfere, and it shouldn't be a problem. Or
because there's people in the terminal with cell phones on all the time,
right?
And they're right there watching your plane land.
Right. Now, that being said, there is a protected area, and when I take you out flying sometime, I'll show you. There's a hold short, and then there's the Category 2 hold short. So when the weather goes below 802, I believe is the number, the 800-foot ceiling, 2 miles visibility, then they protect what's called the ILS critical area, the Instrument Landing System critical area, and that keeps other aircraft and vehicles away from the broadcast antenna that gives you your localizer, which is your course, your runway course, and your glide slope. Because frequently when you're flying in VFR weather, you're coming down the glide slope, and all of a sudden your course will bend way off. And you go, oh yeah, there's a truck crossing down, on a road short of the runway. Yeah. The large metal objects will bend that signal. Wow. So they protect that.
Sure.
And I assume that the engineers have all looked into the cell phone signals, the Wi-Fi, the Bluetooth. But definitively speaking, I can't give an answer. But I wish maybe Allison, if you're listening, can touch it on your next show or give an answer here. Yeah. Because her engineering approach to it was, look, are you sure, you turning it on and you think it doesn't happen, but what if 200 people are in the back with their phones on? What's really going to happen then? Have you done that research? No, you haven't.
You definitely, like almost certainly you haven't. Yeah. Right. Yeah. They have.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there is the thing to remember is there is a segment of this ruling or this rule that comes not from the FAA, but from the FCC. Right. And that was the part that I know we recently touched on this, but I just don't want to lose that here. And it's that the towers are not built to get to focus signal anywhere other than, terra firma and things not too high above that.
Right.
And so it's just that the network is not engineered. I mean, again, back to the engineering point, to efficiently do that.
Right.
And so it does muck with how handoffs work and all of that, because it's not built to do the handoffs in the opposite direction.
Right.
So there is that too. And that's a big part, in addition to the distance, of why your battery's dead if you leave your phone not in airplane mode, because it's constantly searching for a signal. It can't operate efficiently. So there's really no reason to leave airplane mode off when you're up at altitude like that.
Yeah, you just don't need the cellular.
No.
Especially now, so many of them. I know there's at least two. I know Delta is one of them. Offers you free text messaging anyway.
Yes.
Regardless of whether or not you buy their Wi-Fi signal.
That's right.
You can log into their app and register and get free text back and forth.
Yeah. And JetBlue's Wi-Fi, I mean, JetBlue has always understood what it takes to keep people distracted.
Boy, isn't that the truth?
While they are crammed onto an airplane. I mean, They were the first with TVs, and they're the first with free Wi-Fi, but they're also the first with Wi-Fi that, in my experience, is fast enough to do some level of streaming over. Like, when I said I was testing Lucas's Oculus headset,
cool.
I was able to stream Netflix on the plane. I didn't do it for very long, but it came right up.
Yeah, so probably be really a strain on the system for 200 passengers to try to do that, obviously.
Right. They don't, but they also have all those movies online in the plane. So But it does, it's the best Wi-Fi in the air, and it's included in the price of your ticket.
Right.
I don't want to say it's free.
Right.
but yeah.
Yeah, it's like my daughter got a free university T-shirt. Sure you did, honey.
Sure you did. Yeah, let me show you the checkbook. Yeah.
Yeah.
John, any thoughts before we wrap this one up?
No, I think you
beat that dead horse.
Yeah. I do like you guys do. Just turn off the cellular.
Yeah, why not? I speaking of cellular, in the last episode, I asked the question, why would anyone get a cellular iPad these days?
Ooh, pick me.
Okay, I will pick you. I want to share what other listeners had to say, unless it's the same reason for you.
For me, it's ForeFlight. I can update when I'm flying. I can update charts and weather, and I do it all before I leave anyway. But if I'm flying and I need to change airports and I want to download the plates for that other airport, I'm on cellular, and at only a few thousand feet in a light civil.
Yes, you're totally within range.
It's right there.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So the other option I was using, my daughter took to school with her, my other iPad Mini. It was Wi-Fi only, so it had to tether to the iPhone phone if I needed to do something like that.
That makes sense. So, okay. I like that. So just not in a crunch, having the ability to just do it without, let's tether, let's do all the other things.
Right. And then and there's a thing that's cool. I'll show you. I got a little thing. It's about the size of a cigarette box. And it's called a Sentry, and it gives me ads be in and out, so I see other traffic.
Yeah.
It's a carbon monoxide detector, and it's backup AHRS, attitude and heading reference. So I have digital on the iPad, a pitch attitude indicator.
That's amazing.
And but it Wi-Fi's to the Sentry. And so I have to turn off take that off that Wi-Fi network and tether it to my phone if I need to get. So I'm having to change networks on it. Whereas if it's cellular, I can leave that Sentry attached to it, and I can
still
get the data I need downloaded. So
there's yet another reason, and it might even be relevant for you as a pilot. Is the iPads with cellular radios also have GPS radios in them.
Yes.
The GPS receiver is part of the cellular radio. So if you get a Wi-Fi only iPad, it does not have GPS.
Interesting.
Right. Yes. So these are the reasons. And thanks to all of you who wrote in and shared that with us. That makes a lot of sense for obvious reasons. So thank you for that. Yeah.
Dave, I'm not sure that's true, and I hate because the small iPad, the mini iPad we were using, we had the charts, and the charts were moving along as we go with it.
If I look at the specs for the iPad Mini, on Apple.com,
they're using some magic. I don't know what it is.
Right? Yes, for sure. Yeah. But if I look at the specs and I look for GPS, it's only in the Wi-Fi and cellular models.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know what magic they're doing, but it is correct, at least according to Apple's specs.
Yeah.
So if anybody knows what magic they're doing,
let us know. Cool. Yeah, I mean, obviously mine was a very granular, specific case, but there are bunches of good reasons for, I think, to have cellular.
For sure.
The other one is my mother. Didn't buy Wi-Fi for her home.
Right.
So her iPad is her only connection to the outside world. She's 95. She does email on her iPad, and it wasn't worth $50-$60 a month to get Wi-Fi so she could do email.
That makes sense.
$15 a month I could cut.
Yep. So, no, that's the least expensive internet access and suits all of her needs.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
I'm sorry, I've talked way too much.
It's fun to have you back, and it's nice to have your perspective on lots of things. There's like 4 more topics that I want to ask you about, but we do need to the band already started playing, so I don't know what to do.
Cut that thing off.
We will I still got to figure out why the mixer goes into lock mode.
Yeah.
I should Google for that because I might be able to find an answer. Not a mixer, the control surface, USB control surface. All right, folks, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thanks for sending in all your tips and questions. Thanks for your feedback about everything that we do here. It's amazing. John, do you have any thoughts for them? Any places you'd like to send them? Anything you'd like to say, my friend?
Instagram. I've seen myself on Instagram. I think it's Instagram.com. Mac Geek Gab?
It is. We're just at Mac Geek Gab on Instagram. Absolutely. Yeah. So see us on Instagram. You can follow us all on Twitter. He is John F. Braun. He is Pilot Pete. I'm Dave Hamilton. The show is at Mac Geek Gab, just like it is on Instagram, and then at Mac Observer as well. So I don't know what sort of signs Pete's making.
There we go. I was trying to point to Dave.
Yeah, it's a
John
tricky thing. That's right.
And for those of you listening in the car, I was trying to point in the right direction.
I was trying to point, but nothing happened.
No.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we are looking forward to seeing you next week. So make sure you go check out all our sponsors, all our deals at macgeekgab.com/sponsors. That's where you can find the still active deals, even from past sponsors. We try and vet through that list about once a month. But if you find anything on there that's not right, let us know. Feedback at macgeekgab.com. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks, Pete.
Thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Well, John, I know that Pete got us into this mess, but who should get us out?
I could.
You want to get us out? Get us out, man. Yeah.
And how do I get us out? I'm going to tell everyone 3 important words, and they are don't get caught.
Made up.